what I think is most important for me is the, the freedom it provides, and also the feeling that when you're not playing through some score, or you actually start playing, you start thinking more in terms of timbre. You actually start playing with people, and it's like each people is like its own instrument. And I think what I like the most is this kind of unexpected thing about the music. Also, all the ways you can go, and because for me it's just not this kind of non-idiomatic thing. We can do a lot of improv with other kinds of languages, and I really like that. I'm not just into one language. I really like to, and I really appreciate it when I play with people that also bring me to other fields of expression, not just the most regular kind of improv thing. I started studying music like at age 8, and I was my first instrument was electronic organ, and my dad also played the organ. He still does at Sunday church, and one of the first memories I have of playing with him, which is a thing I really like to remember, is we play. He actually played some Bach chorales, and I would play the long notes. So it was kind of easy. It was a really nice experience. Then I applied to the Instituto Gregoriano de Lisboa, which is kind of a conservatory, but with the Gregorian chant part, where I kept studying organ, so tube organ. But then some years later, I understood that I wanted to keep studying music in a more serious way, and I applied to composition. I was 1 year in Universidade de Aveiro, and then moved to Lisbon, where I studied composition for some years. My parents bought me my drum set, which is still the same, in 1993. So, the drums were never. I never studied drums like I've studied organ and the normal music lessons. I always was self-taught. So I knew how to read music. So it was easier for me to grab another instrument. Some years later, there was something interesting happening. Hot Club and the Câmara Municipal de Loures had organized some workshops, like 3 or 4 years in a row, I think. And I did all those workshops. So that was the time in my musical life where I started to play something more related to jazz. Recently, like 2009, I went to study jazz in Évora, in University of Évora. But I've been playing like improvised music maybe since 2000 and something. Also, I started not with drums and percussion, but with electronics, because there was a time where I did some Max MESP with my friend André Sier, and also João Castro Pinto, which are more electronic musicians. But then some years later, I actually left the electronics a bit on the side, and started first with percussion, like with a kind of a hybrid set with small percussions. Yeah, I would say there are two main reasons. One is you know the people, you have some kind of empathy, and I'm not even talking just in musical terms. So because that can also happen. We can also have some really nice musicians, but for one reason or another, you don't just get so empathic with them. It depends. It depends a lot. But I would also say that for you have the musical reasons, like you appreciate the kind of playing, the kind of I think one important thing that the musicians usually are aware and try to have that, because it's really rewarding if you play with them, is if you understand that someone listens to the other musicians. So you really, I think it's really crucial on this kind of language, the ability to hear and to interact in a rich way. I think, as most other musicians in this particular area wish and feel on their, if you can say, on their musical skin, we have the same problem. We have the same problem with jazz and music that's on the fringes in general, which is we have, and that's not just a Portuguese problem, as you know. We have a public problem, and how do you get people that are not musicians or that are not particularly educated in this kind of music? How do you get them to buy discs, go to concerts, be enthusiastic about this kind of expression, so as to keep some kind of regular activity that enables you to just play and not having to give lessons or do other kinds of sound work or even other kinds of work? You really need the time to practice and to play, because if you take that time, you won't be as good as a musician. But so with all these new places where you can play, and I think we always have to think in terms of have concerts, also trying to make some good recordings, as if they were kind of a greeting card that you can show to other people, and also try at the most to have some international circulation, because to have some scale, and to be able to play in the venues that that pay a bit more, like the theaters, because the other problem is that we have these two levels, right? The really low level, well, where you get like 30 or 40 or 50 euros a night, which is not many places pay like that in Lisbon. And you have the other places where you get invited, and you're going to play there like months in advance, where you can get like 300 or 400 or 500 euros. But in the middle, you really don't have nothing. Then there's the other problem, the cultural problem, the thing that the public wants, and that the people think that the public wants, the people who program. So it's a kind of catch-22 problem. We would like to get out of there, but at least these days it is said that the music scene is bustling, the improv scene is bustling in Lisbon. It's really hot. I would also add Porto, of course, but I think we just need to keep it going, and keep the activity going, because if you don't fight for that, it eventually ends, because you just need to take a deep breath and do the thing that you like to do. And I think that's the resistance part, the political part of this kind of music, as it was in the 50s and 60s. It's you have to resist this kind of mainstream resistance with what the market thinks people should hear and buy.